Everybody has tips and advice for your military transition, but some of those tips suck. There's a lot of people giving advice that either is specific to them and not good for anybody else, or is just bad advice. A lot of people have the good intention to help out, to share insights with people that they care about, to try to help them on their journey. And it comes from a good place, but maybe they're sharing insights not from a basis of experience. It happens all the time. And a lot of people who are in that space, who are either pre-transition or in the midst of it, or most recently or more recently transitioned and are, veterans now trying to navigate their way through the civilian world, a lot of them don't know what a good source of information is. They trust their first sergeant, who may or may not have ever held a civilian job in their life. Not saying first sergeants suck. I love first sergeants. If I would have stayed in the military, that would have been my destiny. I would have loved to be a first sergeant. So I have a lot of respect for people who do that. But a first sergeant, a superintendent, a commander, anybody in a position of leadership and responsibility who may or may not have ever worked in the civilian world before, save when they were at, a kiosk in the mall before joining the military, and when they were in high school, they don't have insights on the civilian working world, and they haven't transitioned yet, so they don't have insights on the civilian world. It is anecdotal at best, but that usually does not hinder people in those positions from giving advice and sharing insights. And it's a big problem. There's a lot of bad advice out there. The other day I made a post that I decided, instead of saying, what's the best transition advice you've ever received? Because it's just, there's always such a disparate response. And those are valuable threads that a lot of people in my space put together that can provide a lot of good insights. But I decided to take a different approach, and maybe not negative, but more humorous. I made a post. I said, let's play a game in 1 to 3 sentences. Give a transitioning military member the worst possible advice. And y'all did not disappoint. Good gravy. This was one of my favorite threads of all time. Your comments were hilarious. Really good stuff. And I noticed that there were more commonalities in these comments. There were more unifying threads and more consensus around, more universal consensus around what bad advice is than there is around a thread that would say, give me your best transition advice. So anyone who would say, like, oh, you're coming from a negative place. No, I'm not. It's just another way to approach the same information. People may digest it differently. People may need that humorous edge or whatever. Sometimes you got to present, you got to present the same information, just like wearing a different hat. That's what I'm here for. Military transition information, wearing a different hat. Today we're doing a top hat. Maybe tomorrow we'll do a derby cap. Maybe we'll do a sombrero the next day. I don't know. I'm going to mix it up. But what I do know is that if we don't evangelize for questioning our sources, we can evangelize for taking transition seriously till we're blue in the face. And people have been doing that effectively, and it's starting to make a difference. The transition space is becoming louder and more unified, and it's making a difference. I don't have data to back it up, but I can tell you that the people who I work with personally more frequently are saying, I'm a year from my transition. I'm 6 months from my transition, versus I transition next week. Maybe I should start a LinkedIn page. That still happens, but it is happening less and less. So it's working. We're evangelizing for taking transition seriously and getting a good head start, but we also need to evangelize for questioning our sources, because not all information is created equal. Jordan, Jordan just added, don't apply for jobs that seem outside of your experience. Worst advice. Oh, there you go. See, that's a good one. People that see they're still coming in. If you have additions, throw them in the comments just like Jordan did. Thank you, Jordan. I sure appreciate that. Feel free to add what is your worst advice, worst possible advice you could give a transitioning military member. And bear in mind, before I do this, this is deliberately bad advice. Do not take this advice. And at the same time, we and you and us collectively, we're not a monolith. So somebody's horrible advice may actually be good for you. You never know. But I will say that if you do not question your sources, well, if you don't take your transition seriously, it'll be the reason why you struggle. If you struggle in your post-service career in life, if you do not take your transition seriously, and that includes questioning your sources of information. All right. So, yes, we can laugh at this together, but I also want you to take this seriously. You ready for me to dive in? I'm going to read the best ones. And oh, by the way, my personal favorite, and a lot of these are new to me because I could not keep up with the thread anymore. There's almost 200 comments. The one that makes me laugh, or the one that is the most compelling to me, I will give a signed copy of my brand new book, LinkedIn Mastery for Veterans and Transitioning Service Members. Who couldn't want that? Michael adds, there are so many different resources out there and so many sources, it can be hard to cut through the noise. You're darn right. And sometimes our sources that tell us how to cut through the noise don't know how to cut through the noise. That's why we must question our sources. Trust but verify, right? Trust but verify. Hey, before I dive into reading these awesome, hilarious comments, and definitely will be entertaining, I just want to inspire everybody. I'm making a push here at the end of the year. I am helping a company that is collecting important data on behalf of the Department of Veterans Affairs in an effort to improve their suite of mobile and desktop applications. So this company, it's not the VA, it is a third party that is collecting user data, user interface data from veterans, and that data is presented then to the VA, and they use that to improve their suite of apps. This data is the reason why the new VA Health and Benefits app rocks and is continuing to get better and quickly, and will continue to get better. All right, if you have it's the reason why we're not using My Healthy Vet and eBenefits on our phone anymore. And we have an actual app that does what it's supposed to do and is just continuing to improve. This information is really valuable. And I have reached out to some of you people personally, and I sure appreciate your participation in this. Veteranusability.us. It is easy as pie. You just share your opinion. They give you $5 for signing up. And then after that, they shoot you an email. It is at your own convenience. It is at your leisure. It is never, it is just opt-in only. You can do a point and click survey. I think they give you $10 for that. Or you can do like a Zoom call with a representative if you fulfill the criteria they need, demographic criteria that they need to collect that information. And they give you $50 for that. So like for me personally, I made $55, like the easiest $55 I have ever made in my life. And it took less than an hour of my life. And I rested well knowing that I was providing valuable insights that helped the VA do a better job in how it administered and managed its benefits with the beneficiaries. And some people, the second I mentioned VA, they're like, you suck and blah, blah, blah. Okay, like I get your frustration with the VA. Okay, so we have two options here. We can be a whiny diaper baby and get all angry about it, or we could try to improve it. Some people say there's a third option, burn it to the ground. Great. Well, in the meantime, between now and when you burn it to the ground and just dissolve it entirely, if that is even possible, that's debatable, and I think it's a bad idea. That's just me. But between then and now, Why don't we work together to improve those services? I'm not defending the VA. I'm not saying the VA is perfect. I'm not on the take from the VA. They don't pay me a single thing for this. I want those services to improve for veterans and caregivers and dependents. I want them to be able to access their benefits easily, make changes easily, and not be frustrated out of taking action on their processes. So please, veteranusability.us. And if you go to that website, they will also show you that these are the VA contracts, right? So this is official, legit stuff. The questions are not too intrusive. Please. And I'll be reaching out to more of you personally because this is a huge deal. And I would really appreciate if you would spread the word. And again, I don't get like compensated for each person who signs up for this. Nothing like that. All right. I'm working with the third party. And I just want the VA to do a better job at helping all of you. It's really, really important. Kevin says, amen, brother. Yeah, man. I appreciate your support. I've had, man, the last time I talked about this, oh boy, the trolls came out. My goodness. There were a couple of them that were just like, well, you mentioned the VA and you didn't say horrible things about it, so you must be on the take and you're naive and like dropping F-bombs and stuff. And I was thinking, I probably just shouldn't do anything on Facebook anymore. It is an awful place. All right, let's get into the fun stuff, friendos. All right, first, Ian, my good friend Ian, who is a public affairs officer with the Army. He says, and these are the worst bits of advice that you could give a military transitioner. This is deliberately bad advice. Don't take this advice. I got a comment coming in already. If we aren't talking about it, it never changes. Absolutely. Yeah, man. I agree. So I appreciate you tuning in. And everybody, please keep your comments coming. I'll try to address them. All right. Ian says, foul language and sarcasm are considered sentence enhancers in the civilian world, especially when dealing with customers. That's a good one. All right. Brandon says, general officers, O5s and 6, and E9s who've never had a corporate job are the best sources of advice on transitioning to a true corporate career, i.e., non-defense contractor / federal government job. That's a good one. I feel like like recently there was a guy, really, good looking guy wearing flannel who was talking about questioning your sources. I agree. See, I'm not the only person saying it. Brandon, that's a good one. Drake says, wake the CEO up every day at 5:01 a.m. using a blowhorn outside their house, telling them to drop and give you 50 before asking why they weren't awake and why their bed isn't already made. So take the drill sergeant approach with your C-suite. That could work. That could work. Corey Henderson, my man from Stars and Stripes, he says, at the job fair on base, go to the biggest companies you have heard of, tell them your rank, MOS, the hometown you are returning to in 3 months, hand them your resume and say, what do you have for me? That's a good one. There's a lot to unpack there. Rank doesn't really matter in your post-service career. Your MOS only matters if you have like direct tactical expertise that relates to the position you're applying for. Hometown you're returning to in 3 months. If you are moving in 3 months to somewhere else and you're at a job fair in the place you're moving from, you're just in the wrong place. You need to be networking with people and networking on LinkedIn with the people who, you're going to that place. If you're moving in 3 months to San Francisco from St. Louis, it doesn't make sense for you to be at a St. Louis job fair, generally speaking, unless they have a global or a national footprint. That's a good one, Corey. I like that. Josh says, don't listen to Adam Bratz. He's just out to make money off of veterans. Funnily enough, I read that post and I thought it was a comment on another post I had made. And I got really sad. I was like, man, why would somebody say that? Turns out that's the sarcasm one. Michael Quinn, who's CEO at Higher Military, he says, you're a commander? Just translate your title to CEO. That is good, bad advice. That is good, bad advice, Michael Quinn. I recently got a little bit of backlash for a video I did short about how, commander doesn't always translate to CEO. But that is another conversation. I'm going to stick with the funny. DJ says, send a headshot in your full dress uniform, proudly displaying rank and awards with any resume. Be sure to use lots of military jargon to make yourself sound more official. Don't hesitate to wear your uniform to interviews, especially after you get out. Conclude every interview with your welcome for my service. Demand to be addressed by your former rank. Professionals use titles. Make sure these civvies use yours. And finally, you absolutely must salute every flag you see. Woof. That's a good one, DJ. That's a good one. Oh man, we're getting some good comments in here too. I'm going to keep going with the original comments in the thread, but I'm going to get to the people who are commenting on the live right now. Roger Loesch says, just say I'm a veteran. Hire me. Might work for like, private defense contracting or whatever, Blackwater stuff. Works in 0.5% of industries. Act like you're, Daniel says, act like you're a hard charger at a civilian job. They'll love it. Well, they might. Some people like hard chargers. Depends on what you mean by hard charger. Eric Buzz Hoffman, my friend, says, don't worry about VA benefits. It's not much money and your lifestyle isn't affected after decades in the service after all. That's good, bad advice. Do everything you can. Like, always file your disability claim. Always. If you have a little shoulder tweak, even if it's like not bad enough, and they just say like, yeah, your shoulder's not right, but it's not too bad. Service connected at 0%, fine. Even just being 0% service connected gets you benefits. But then if down the road you can't lift your arm, it's easy to say, hey, look, man, this thing service connected and it got worse. Got worser. Got worstest. Smart stuff. There's a lot of good advice in here. A lot of good, bad advice if you do the opposite. Michael Klemmer, who is the founder of Ariel Resupply Coffee, which I so enjoy, says, listen to the very first voice you see on LinkedIn. I mean, if the voice is me, then, that's fine. Mike Zwick says, bring any firearms or ordnance you took with you to your interview. If you brought firearms or ordnance with you when you separated, you got problems. You might have an APB out for you. All right, Bob Mahler, my friend, says, during interviews, talk to your interviewer the same way you talk to soldiers who are late for PT formation. They'll love it. That's a good one. Karen says, take whatever resume you want and just spray and pray it across Indeed or Monster. Make sure your LinkedIn profile picture is your kill face. March into that interview and slam into parade rest. No smiling. Karen, that's a good one. That's a top 5 one. Spray and praying your resume on Indeed and Monster is not a winning strategy. People have gotten jobs that way in the past. It's not a winning strategy. It's a great way to waste a lot of time. And the part of that people don't talk about is even if you're spraying and praying, if I'm sending 100 non-customized, non-keyword optimized resumes to 100 positions that aren't a good fit for me and just hoping for the best, even though I know in the back of my head they're not a good fit, when I get a form rejection letter, it hurts. This whole job search process, job hunt and career transition process can be really dejecting, and it can hurt your ego. It can make you feel like, man, I thought I was valuable. What the heck? But I just keep getting form responses that say, no, not interested. Your resume was impressive, but ... And it's not because you're not impressive. It's because maybe you didn't take the application seriously. Like, people, your chances of your application and your resume being taken seriously increases exponentially with how much dedicated time you put into it. And that's not just keyword optimizing your resume. That's networking. Trying to find a person who knows a person that can make a warm introduction. So, Karen, that's a really good one. It was funny, and yeah, it's good. Really good. I like that one. Mark Adams says, wait until TAP class when you're 30 to 90 days out to start your resume and hear about all the amazing job opportunities out there. That's a good one, Mark. I added, your E4 skills are worth 6 figures on the outside. How many of you have heard that? Yowza. Brian says, chug rip it before your interview and lead with a charming anecdote about the time the distro company sent an empty fueler to your JSS, culminating with a declaration of contempt for effing pogues. Goodness. Yeah. And you notice that the theme here, even just up until this point, and I'm just scratching the surface on some of these great comments. Theme is, if you act out of place, not just wearing a uniform, but if you look too militaristic, if you use military acronyms, you use common military phrases that just make you look like a duck out of water in the civilian world. Like if you appear other than, or you appear like you won't be a good fit for the civilian working world or the ecosystem you're hoping to become a part of, if you look like you won't be a good fit, people aren't going to hire you. You have to be able to adapt. You dress for the job you want. And some people push back on me when I say, dress for the job you want, or like wear your civilian camouflage. And they say, well, look, I shouldn't have to hide my service. I shouldn't be ashamed of my service. If they're a good employer, they'll love me because of it. Oh, that's a tough conversation. The analogy I use, if you were applying for a job, interviewing for a job in China at a Chinese company where they observe Chinese customs and courtesies and they speak Chinese, it's a job you're a really good fit for. Are you going to walk in there and refuse to speak anything other than English and refuse to observe any of their customs and courtesies? No, you're gonna adapt. You're still gonna be you. Speaking Chinese in that interview doesn't mean you're ashamed of being an American or ashamed of being somebody who speaks English. Observing Chinese customs and courtesies doesn't mean you're ashamed to be an American. So like observing civilian customs and courtesies and adapting and fitting to the environment you're applying to be a part of doesn't mean you're ashamed of the fact that you're a veteran. It's part of who you are forever, and you should never have to hide that. But we need to make sure that we are dressing and acting for the job that we want, and fitting in with that ecosystem matters. See, all these are getting me on my soapbox. All right. Ben Hall says, don't waste time on a resume. Your leadership experience and veteran status will get you a high-paying job. I feel like some of these are things that people have heard. How many of you have heard that in your TAPS class? Like, people are just lining up to give you jobs. Joe said something I was actually told. SkillBridge is for service members with less experience in time and service than you. You're good to go. Ouch. SkillBridge is for everyone, and it's great. That is one of the most important advancements. The ability to shadow at a civilian company while getting your military salary in the time leading up to your transition. That is one of the biggest game-changing things for the transition space ever. Massive. So yeah, it's for everyone. I don't care if you're a general. It's for everyone. Craig says the only thing on your resume more important than every GPA from high school forward is listing every single one of your military awards and citations. That's funny. That's from Craig. Tim says, ignore everything they offer you when leaving the military and strike out on your own. The military bearing is all you need to succeed. No, of course not. Yeah, you research your benefits and you take them up on all that they have to offer. Federal, state, local benefits, opportunities for training, schooling, whatever. Saying like, oh, I don't need any of those handouts. That's dumb. That's dumb. That's like if you get in a car accident and then you say like, I don't need to file an insurance claim because I don't need a handout. Come on. Charles says, show up to your interview wearing your PT belt. Yeah, safety first, right? Aaron says, be sure to put transitioning service member, servant leader as your headline. And if you were a senior enlisted NCO, make sure you put senior operations manager as your last 3 job titles, and remember to get mad when no one will interview you for their senior ops manager role. Ouch. The truth hurts. Brock says, your most recent evaluation doubles as a resume. It proves you are in the service, gives the employer a true sense of your role, responsibilities, and accomplishments. The only exception for that's good, bad advice. But the only exception for that would be in your experience section of your LinkedIn profile or in your resume. A lot of times your EPRs or your performance reports, your bullets are a really great place to start because they're usually specific, they're measurable, they have numbers attached to them. It's a good place to start. You can just copy and paste but you have to demilitarize it, right? It's a good place to start if you need to remember what your accolades are and what your accomplishments are. But you definitely have to soften it for civilian ears. And my best advice for that, for both LinkedIn or your resume, is to have a civilian, non-military person, non-military spouse, non-military experienced person read it and see if it makes sense to them. That's good. Good, bad advice. Rob Chambers says, relax. Don't lift a finger. Your country owes you. You'll be able to just waltz in any patriotic company and they'll bend over backwards to make sure you get your $150K plus salary, even without a proper resume or interview. Rob, that's a good one. I like that a lot. Brian says, use the word civilian all the time on your resume, at the interview. Refer to everyone and everything as civilian. You'll blend right in. Yeah, probably just avoid the word civilian in general. Greg Fisher, co-founder of Burn Pit Barbecue, says, tattoo your branch of service on your face. Immediate promote ahead of peers. That's funny. Elizabeth says, your spouse/family that has held a civilian corporate job for years or decades knows nothing about corporate life. Yeah, you got to swallow your ego and ask the people who know and have firsthand experience what they think and what they advise, and you need to listen. That's a good, bad one. Tim, his good, bad advice is expect the jobs to come to you. Yikes. John says, you served your country and companies will be lined up to want to hire you. You just simply need to say that you're transitioning from the military with whatever clearance you have, and you will have offers flood into your inbox. That is also not true. Just for people who just joined us, we're giving the worst transition advice. I should have a thing that just says this, don't take any of this advice. Reg says, when you get your first job, run everything exactly as you did in your unit. That's why they hired you. Make sure they know you're in charge. Chris says, civilian companies actually love your dark humor jokes and always take your spit bottle to company meetings. Yeah. I have never seen a spit bottle in a civilian environment ever. Work or other, like, I think outside of the military, the only other time I've seen somebody with a spit bottle was in high school, like in the back of the math class, just like trying to look cool. And they actually like swallow a little bit, and then they get like intestinal discomfort and have to sprint to the restroom. I have a vivid memory of that happening to one guy in particular more than once. It's always the hockey players. How many of you here play hockey? Why are hockey players always doing that? It doesn't make any sense to me. Anyways, I digress. A few more of these. John says, if you're a transitioning veteran, my advice is to do the complete opposite of the funny suggestions. Well, yeah. Yep. That's the point of this. And then he said, next piece of advice is connect or follow with everyone who provided a response to include the thread creator. Many thanks. Follow these simple steps and you too will have a successful transition. Good one, John. I like it. All right, back to the bad advice. David said, use the same resume, what you did in the military, for every single job posting. No need to tailor it. Applying online for a job is the best way to land a role. Mentorship is overrated. Just do it yourself. Whew. Ouch. That's a good one. Georgina says, wear your uniform to the interview. The recruiting team will decipher what your rank was and understand your transferable skills instantly. You'll also ooze an aura of discipline and authority. That's a good one. That's good, bad advice. Good, bad advice. Christine said, this is a good one. Christine says, when a potential employer thanks you for your service, say, you're welcome. Thank you for remembering that freedom isn't free. Smug. Don't do it. Dan says, you must use your basic training photo as your profile picture. Employers want to see when you started serving. I really want to find, there's a video, you get to download the DVD, the compilation video from your basic training when you were a trainee. Mine, and I have to find it somewhere, has a good video of me coming out of the gas chamber. And the thing about those gas chamber videos is you notice all of the females walk out of the gas chamber like, all right, enjoying the experience. And meanwhile, all the tough males are coming out of there just coughing and spluttering, and they got snot and tears. They're like, I want to call my mom. Like, it's just like, there is no better explanation, no better representation of how our military females are just tough as nails than just watching them come out of the gas chamber. They can handle so much more. Anyways, but there's a part of that video where I come out, and you can see I am that like martyr. I'm just and then I just like puke, spit up all this snot. But then the photographer like zooms in on it and like slow motion. So you get like me just like slow motion hurling. Hilarious. I have to find that. If anyone here went to basic training with me, we got to talk. I need that. And apparently there's a video from somebody else's training video from when I was back there as an instructor of me really getting in there chili. I kind of want to see that too. I was loud. All right, last one. Josh says, look, these civilians are dying to get you on their team thanks to your service. You basically don't need to do anything other than make sure your resume doesn't translate to civilians. And boom, high-paying jobs with great benefits in fields you'll love. You'll have to fight them off with a stick. That is a good one, Josh, man. And thank you to everybody else who commented. I'm going to look in the comment section here. Here's good, bad advice. Wait until you get out to file your VA claims. E5 equivalent pay in the civilian world is $85K a year. And to know that's what you're worth. That's good, bad advice. Don't take that advice. Benefits on delivery or benefits on discharge. Take care of your medical stuff and your claims in advance, if possible. Kevin says, LinkedIn is only for white-collar professionals. That's good, bad advice. LinkedIn is for everyone. Oh, here's one. The VA is somewhat equivalent to workman's comp. Try reopening a workman's comp claim several years after. It's just as painstaking. Okay, so that's good advice based on what I was talking about earlier. Yeah, reopening a claim or trying to, reopening a claim is easier than starting a new one and proving out something that happened 10 years before. So that's good advice. That's good advice. I hope you like this good, bad advice, friends. Hey, listen up. If you're looking for something rewind a little bit. If you're looking for something to stuff in the stockings of that veteran or service member that you oh so love, might I suggest giving the gift of LinkedIn Mastery for veterans and transitioning service members this year? This month, between now and the end of the calendar year, for every one of these books that gets purchased on Amazon, I'm going to donate one to a veteran in need. So if 1,000 books sell, I'm going to donate 1,000 books. That's how much I believe in this. Check it out. Check it out. Grab it. Grab one for your friend. Grab 10. And while you're at it, veteranusability.us. Spend a couple minutes doing a survey, get paid to do it, and help the VA do a better job. All those things, man. I appreciate all of you tuning in. I hope this was entertaining. And remember, this was all bad advice. Don't take the bad advice. If you want to get more good advice, you know where to find me. Appreciate all of you. Have a great day.